Okay.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. This is officially our very first podcast
Not an
episode.
intro episode.
Yes, we're excited because on today we're going to be talking about children, family, fertility planning, and navigating that biological clock. You're good. You're set on that biological clock. Don't worry about it that ticking because you are pregnant with your fourth child.
I am. Fourth child. Number 3 of a girl. So we have 1 boy, 2 girls, and this will be our 3rd girl.
Yay. Were you disappointed it wasn't a boy?
No. Actually, Caleb and I are nerdy. And we were kind of thinking it was probably going to be a girl because most often statistically when you have 2 of one, you're going to have the 3rd of another.
I've never had children, but I do see a lot of gender disappointments, a real thing. So have you
Axel was very disappointed. Sobbing, crying, told us the next morning that he was going to pray that God changed this to a boy. I was like, doesn't work that way, buddy. Sorry.
Because he wanted a brother.
He did want a brother. So there was definitely a gender disappointment there.
That's so sad.
It was really sad. Especially because he wants a brother. But him and Evie, I think it's sweet and it's funny and it's sad. I was like, dude, you're 7.
Yeah.
Wait, are you really going to play that hard? And when they're older, yeah, they'd be buddies. But I mean, the sibling I'm closest to now is my brother.
Yeah.
So.
So let's go through the birth dates. Axel's 7, Evie's 5.
Joey is not yet 2. This one was a surprise.
So, which people don't know. You said that.
So Axel was a surprise. He was a birth control baby. So when people were like, yeah, birth control works, I'm like, false. Evie and Joey we tried for. And Joey we tried for a long time. And so then we were getting ready to be done. Caleb was talking to a urologist. And I was like, I'm pregnant.
Yeah, when you told me you weren't you're I'm pregnant. So monotone, and I was like,
I didn't know how to I don't know, it's your 4th kid.
And I was like, congratulations.
That is not how I did it. I was like, oh yeah, this is my I'm pregnant, and I think I pointed to my belly.
Yeah, I was like, I don't want to ask, but yeah, yay.
I was not in a hurry. It was such a shock and such a surprise. And people are like, why didn't you tell me? And I'm like, I don't know.
It's another day of the week now.
Yeah.
4 kids. It's I feel like it's another walk in the park.
Yeah. And I feel like
another trip.
Joey just happened that it's well, I've just been pregnant for 2 years.
But their age gaps are Evie and Axel's age gap is going to be similar to this baby and Joey.
So Axel and Evie were 2.5 years apart.
Yeah.
Joey and this baby are literally going to be 2 years apart. 2 years and a month.
So they all have buddies.
Yes. Which will work out well.
You go to Disney World, they all have a buddy.
Yeah. And Axel and Evie are the best of buds.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that Joey will.
He was always going to be closer with Evie anyway.
Yeah.
Because of the age.
Yeah.
They're in school together. They're going to have a lot of the same friends growing up, especially when they get to high school.
Yeah. That's why Hunter and I, it was the same thing. We had the same friends,
How far apart are you and Hunter?
18 months. Maybe less. Somewhere in there.
Insanity.
Yeah. I think actually, so Hunter's born in February and I'm in November. So what is that year? 15 months?
Yeah. When's your birthday?
November 3rd.
I knew it was coming up.
Yeah.
I knew it was coming up. Because you're going to be 29.
Mm-hmm.
So me and Maddie graduated the same year high school.
2014.
But I just turned 28 in July.
Yeah.
So I was on the baby end. And had just turned 5 going into kindergarten, and you were turning 6 in kindergarten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've always been older.
Yeah. And I've always been younger. So I wonder which is better.
I don't know.
I think it's older.
I think for girls it doesn't really matter, but I notice a difference in boys.
Yeah. So are you done after this child?
Yes. What about you?
What about me? So I don't have any children, and this is such a hot topic.
Do you get asked a lot?
Oh my gosh.
Are you and Dylan gonna have kids?
We get asked an insane amount.
Really?
Right now the plan is we will have kids one day. I don't have a timeline. And I feel like you get engaged or you're dating. Let's start with dating. You're dating. You've been dating for 2 or 3 years. When are you getting engaged?
Yeah. When are you getting married?
When are you getting married? And then you get married. When are you having kids?
Mm-hmm.
And then you can have a kid. You gonna have a second?
Yeah.
You gonna have
It's
a
like
third?
immediately.
I have a fourth.
The third and the fourth doesn't happen as much, but like literally like 2 days after Axel was born, people are like, you can have another baby. I'm like, I don't know.
But people are never satisfied because if you say you're one and done, people are like, oh my gosh, you should give them siblings. And it's like,
I think you can't win. I
You
don't think you can
can't.
win this. So funny enough, Hunter and I were talking about this yesterday, my brother. And because he was telling me that he was reading this article in the Wall Street Journal about how we're like on the brink of a civilization collapse because we don't have enough babies being born. And I was like, you know what's crazy is like I got so much shit for having a fourth baby. Like,
yeah, well, you were telling me about that.
it's like people said like stuff, and even like a third baby. It's crazy because you go from 2 kids to a third kid, and it's like, oh my gosh, your hands are so full.
Yeah.
And it's like, when I had 1 kid, y'all were asking me when I was going to have another kid. Like, calm down.
But a lot of people have fourth children.
You think so?
I follow a lot of people, like I was telling you. I follow a lot of people on like influencers and bloggers and stuff that have 3 to 4 children. Like I think that's very in the norm.
I think 2 is. And I think 3 is kind of like, wow, you're in a lot. Bloggers and influencers are not the norm.
No. 4 to me.
Okay, so think about like your day to day when you're out and about. Do you think 4 is a lot?
Yes. Like to me, I'll never have 4 children.
Okay, so how many do you want?
1.
1?
Honestly, like I know, and Dylan, my husband,
Dylan's smiling.
disagrees so much. He would love like 2 or 3. I am so hesitant about kids. It scares me.
Why is that?
I don't necessarily know. For one, I really love my life how it is.
Okay.
I feel like my childhood, I was always in fight or flight mode. And now as an adult, I finally have a very like peaceful life where I get to come home and be with my dogs and my husband, and the attention's all on me, and I have a safe house. And really what I do every day is what Jayme wants to do. I mean, besides go to work and, you have to do groceries and pay bills. But really, if I look at Dylan and say, let's go somewhere this weekend, we have that ability to do that. And I really like that. And it scares me to make I feel like having a child, that first child, is the most massive change you can make. No, you disagree?
No, I think it is, but so like a couple of things. First off, the best thing about being the parent is you get to set the tone of the home.
Mm-hmm.
Like we had Caleb and my first, it was kind of like a turbulent, but now I look at my life and you had a turbulent life,
Mm-hmm.
childhood. You're not a turbulent person, and neither is Dylan. You both are pretty chill people. So you set the tone of the home.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like you get kids who have like emotional dysregulation and stuff like that. But a lot of times, like how you react is how they react.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah. And for me, I've always have wanted to put my marriage as number 1, and always taken the time to feel like our marriage, I feel like it gets better by the day. I feel like we always are learning and communicating better than we used to. And I think that's so important to do before you have kids. And realistically, we've only been married for 2.5 years. And even though we've been together for almost 7 years, I do feel like really learning your marriage sometimes.
I think your marriage is always evolving.
Yeah, but it's, I don't know, you know, and then you build the home and people ask like, well, when are you going to have kids? And
yeah.
I'm only 28.
Yeah.
Dylan is 27. He's a year younger than me. So I don't feel like I'm running out of time. Essentially, I know I am. I hate that feeling as women that we are on a biological clock. And
I think that there is, yes, a biological clock, but I think there's a lot of pressure. So society puts a lot of pressure on us to have kids or to not have kids, right? There's a lot of, you can't win this game.
You can't.
So what does Jayme want to do?
When I've always pictured my life, I've always seen me having children. So it will happen one day, God willing. I just don't know if it's going to happen within the next year or the next 5 years. I just don't know that answer yet. I'm hoping it comes to me. I pray about it a lot, and I really do hope that it'll be like this aha moment. But I haven't had it yet. And I do feel like having a child is a huge decision. And you have to be 100% in, or you don't need to do it. Like, you don't give a little on a baby.
No.
You give it all on a baby.
But I'm going to tell you, it changes when the baby comes. Like, you change no matter what. But the other thing is like, I don't think anybody is all in when they start. Maybe they are. And like, I think some people are all in when they start trying to have a baby. But like, our life and dynamic changed so much. And like, who I was changed so much when I became a mom.
How old were you when you gave birth?
I was 21.
Yeah.
I was young.
So you've spent most of your adult life as a mom.
Yeah.
And that's insane for me to wrap my head around, because I would have been an absolute one of a hell of a mother at 21 years old. Like, I look at myself at 21 and I was a child.
I think I get that a lot. And I'm like, I do think I was a child still. Like, I think I grew a lot. But, like, you grow up with your first, have you ever heard that? You grow up with your first one, your second one, you know what you're doing, and your third one. What was that? And your third, so you grow up as your first child, your second one, you know what you're doing, and the third one you like grow old with or something like that. And I do think that there is some truth in that. Like, no matter what, you can't, like, when people ask me like, what's your best advice for a new mom? I'm like, I don't know, because you literally don't know. No,
you don't sleep. You don't eat.
I think that is a myth.
You don't sleep. You don't eat.
That is a myth.
Okay, this is a really good topic I want to bring up, because this is going around on TikTok.
Okay.
And I know you're not in TikTok, but it was this mother that she showed at the end of the day how many diapers she went and picked up around the house. Like, she would just like change the baby's diaper and like leave one like on like whatever she was doing, because she had a newborn baby and like a 1-year-old. And like, she was like, let's see how many diapers, like they were changed diapers and they were wrapped up, and people like annihilated her on like not throwing away her diapers as soon as she changed them. And then on the other side of it, there's been like a whole mom group that's come and like rally behind her, and they're like, my 17 diapers was me barely being able to get out of bed because I struggle with postpartum, or like 17 diapers is at least 17 changed diapers. Like, you just can't criticize a mom because at least her baby's diapers are changed, kind of thing. I just think that.
Do you think that, here's the thing is, people are always going to hate you. Sorry, that's the truth.
The truth is
that, like, there will always be mean people. There will always be mean people.
People are so tough on moms, though.
But like, why
don't
does
you?
it?
Do you feel like when you get attacked on social media for whatever it is, do you get attacked more on your character or for who you are as a mom? You think?
For a first little while, it was who I was as a mom. But here's the thing: is like, I know I'm a good mom.
Yeah, you are.
And like, so what do you're attacking something that I'm just like, okay, like, whatever, you don't know me.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think we get so wrapped up in like what society thinks that I think, first off, I think that there is a shift when you become a mom from maidenhood to motherhood. And there's no room for motherhood. You're supposed to bounce back. But I think there is becoming more and more space. I do see that shift in the last 7 years. When I first became a mom, it was like, I had to have a bounce back body. And it's like, no, I have a real body. Like, I have a mom bod.
God, well, that needs to be something we really dive deep into.
But there's more and more space for it, right?
Well, going back to the article that your brother told you about, why do you think people are having less children?
Because I think society tells us how hard it is. A. B. I think
your parents stopped procreating.
What?
I'm kidding. I said
I don't know that you need to have as many kids as my parents. I love all
your parents was keeping the human race alive for a strong while.
But like, I think that there's a lot. You can't win either way.
You can't.
I also think that there is a lot of once upon a time it takes a village. We are so isolated in our modern day life that we don't have the help that we once upon a time.
Me and my friend were just talking about this the other day.
like we used to have other moms, like once upon a time it was like moms all just like you raised, and the whole neighborhood had kids and the whole neighborhood
Yeah.
like kept an eye out. So like I live in a neighborhood where there's a couple moms and like we text each other all the time and our kids are running up and down playing. We have cameras and the houses in between. They're retired people. They're watching the kids. Like, not that we're not watching, but like they're making sure. So my Axel rides his bike and they'll ride across their yards to each other's yards so that they're not riding in the road and they don't care. So I do believe that it takes a village.
Oh, it absolutely does. And like
And there's not that
my
anymore.
mom's best friend, who ended up turning into my godmother, she met her when my sister and her oldest, well, her middle child were in like a mommy day out play group, and they met and they became best friends. And she was such an essential part of my life growing up. Like I still talk to her. Like she ended up being my godmother. Like and they met. Neither of them were really from here when they first came, and we were with them all the time because she was a stay-at-home mom and my mom worked night shift in the ER.
Yeah.
And she helped pick us up from school. We were always over there. So
I think that's important.
yeah,
Like I have friends that like are that way now.
you got to
They
help each
have
other
kids.
out. Yeah. Well, and like because my mom's parents weren't here and my dad's parents weren't here. So it's not like they had the grandparent factor, And if you don't have the grandparent factor, which is you have helpful, supportive grandparents that live close by that are going to help you, who do you have? Sometimes you only have friends or the family you create for yourself. And I think a lot of people don't have that.
I think so. And I think that so it's like, how do you change that?
Yeah. So I know for me, since we live on, what I call the compound, my sister and brother-in-law, they have 2 kids and they live across the street. And my husband and I, we're always helping them. And we love it. Like, we will help get my niece from school or this or that. And they don't ever feel hesitant to ask, and they shouldn't. I feel like mom guilt kind of stops you sometime from asking.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of like, I don't want to be an inconvenience or a hindrance,
right.
But.
And they shouldn't feel that way because we don't feel that way. And so you have to find a safe community too, where you don't feel
you're becoming the burden.
Yeah. I think a lot of moms feel like they're the burden.
But I think that's also like
community.
Well, I think too, like kids should be, so it was like interesting when I moved to the South. It was like one of the first places that kids were allowed to be kids, because in the West, and people say Utah's this way and Utah's not this way, kids should be seen but not heard. And like you don't take your kids out in public very much. If you do, it's like you're so stressed the whole time that they're so noisy. It's like, oh, here, have an iPad, like just be quiet. And here, everybody has kids, so everybody gets it.
And I feel different.
Really?
Yeah. I feel like a lot of the old Southern Baptist way is to be seen and not heard.
Yeah, but who do you know who's now having kids that feels that way? Really?
Yeah, some people.
Maybe you just don't hang out in the same circles.
No, well, they're not anybody that I would consider. I would never let them watch my children.
There's people that are obnoxious, but it's like, I like people I hang out with or people I know or people I've met
that have kids.
They're very, or they're like, so my mom always tells, sorry, I'm kicking your feet. My mom always tells a story about riding in the airport, like airplane from Raleigh to wherever. So like, I think she was Phoenix to Raleigh. And she was coming to see us. And she said, it's always interesting because the flights to Raleigh always, or from Raleigh, always have kids. Mm-hmm. And she flies a lot. And she said, they always have kids. And everybody around them has had kids. So one time this kid was kicking the seat and mom kept getting like, stop kicking the seat. And like, she apologized to the guy when they were deboarding the plane. And she was like, I'm so sorry. And he's like, oh no, it's fine. I felt like I was riding with my grandkid in the back seat the whole time. Like, yeah, they get it, you know? Or one time we went out to eat and Axel was little and he was playing peekaboo with the guy on the other side of us. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And it was like right after we moved here. He's like, oh, I have grandkids. I love this.
Yeah.
You see a lot more of that here.
And when you first moved here, you had no other family, no friends, no family, and you essentially, none of your family lives here. So how did you find that community?
I said yes to everything. Somebody would invite me, or like Axel started preschool, and like any of the moms that were like, "Hey, do you want to do a play date?" Unless like my kid was sick or something, like, or I was sick because I was pregnant, I was like, yeah. And or I would take opportunities. There's like mom groups on Facebook. There's almost always a mom group on Facebook. And they do sometimes meetups, or like I would go to the library and I would do like the read along hours. And after you go to so many of those things, you see a lot of the same faces because a lot of people that live in your area have the same age kids and they're doing the same things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I met people.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good answer for anybody that moves, to say yes to everything.
Yeah. If you meet somebody at the store and you tell them that you're new here, like talk to people first. People don't want to talk to people now.
No, I don't. I go to this grocery store and I keep my head down and I pray that I'm not going to see somebody I know.
Okay, somebody you know is different. Actually, no, I've talked to people. But like that's how you build community.
I hate it. I will do a grocery store pickup before I go to the local Food Lion and see somebody I knew from high school. No, thank you.
Would you
No,
even
ma'am.
say hi to them if you knew them?
If we made eye contact, I feel like would have to, but like if you're gonna pretend I'm not here and I'm gonna pretend you're not here, we can pretend we're not here together. I hate it. But I also live where I grew up.
Yeah.
You don't. So I'm like, I hide around by every corner.
I can't say that I would have been the same had I stayed where I grew up or where my family was.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think I had to learn how to be okay talking to new people.
Yeah. I'm fine talking to somebody I don't know. It's like seeing somebody that like from your past and you're like, this is awkward.
Yeah.
You know? Wait till you run into an ex at a grocery store. It's not a fun time.
Pass.
Pass.
No, that's okay.
I just also feel like people are stopping having kids as much because it like the selfish thing comes up. Like people are like, is it selfish to have kids just because you want them?
No.
Or is it selfish to not have kids because you just know you're not fit for it? Or you know what I mean? Like,
I think that the answer is like a resounding no, because I think, well, first off, we're facing a civilization collapse. They're literally paying people. This Wall Street Journal, I'm gonna have to pull it up. They were saying in it that they were like European countries, because they're facing this right now, because the US is not having that problem yet, but European countries are paying families to come, and they give them a stipend for their kids, and they give them like a minivan and like a yearly housing allowance.
From other countries?
Other countries.
We're paying them?
No. We're not paying them. The countries are paying them because they need labor. They need workers.
Doesn't that kind of make you wonder and like kind of and this is the public school teacher in me. There's so many kids out there that aren't taken care of and they're in foster care. Like that pisses me off.
In the US.
Yeah, that pisses me off that like, we beg people to have these children and then there's so many children that don't have.
So that's where I think when you're saying, is it selfish if I know I can't have kids to not have kids? I'm like, I think it's a resounding no for both.
Or is it selfish to have a child knowing that they're not going to grow up in a stable, healthy, wealthy environment? Because, I'm not saying you need to be rich to have kids, but you also don't need to sit there and be like, you don't know where your next meal is coming from and then say, I'm going to have a child on top of this.
Right. So I think that we're opening a can of worms, which we can go into.
I mean, we are.
Because like there's a lot of questions.
This is not how I feel. I think everybody should be entitled to have as many children as they want whenever they want. I'm just saying I do think the younger generation below us is starting to see like, I struggle with bills. The economy's not great right now. I can barely afford my rent. Sometimes I don't know where my next meal is. Why would I have a kid on top of that?
So the US is in a different place right now than these other countries. These other countries are already facing that collapse of they don't have enough workers, they don't have enough families. So you need the next workforce. And that's like I don't think you should have children to raise the next workforce, because then you get kids who are emotionally unstable and all that stuff. But I do think that that is something that a lot of countries are thinking. So they're thinking about it from an economical standpoint. It's like a pragmatic. What we're thinking about is emotional. The U.S. is not facing that currently, but how many, like our generation, millennials, they're not having kids. You need a 2.3 like reproduction rate to maintain workforce. So boomers are dying off, and then the Gen X did not reproduce at that rate, and millennials are not producing at that rate.
I think because I think a lot of reasons people aren't reproducing, especially millennials, is maybe they just can't afford it, and they also know, just because I want a kid, maybe that's not always enough reason to have a kid. Do you know what I mean?
I think so. I think that there's also a lot of like scaring going on.
I'm scared to death. I'm scared to death. I'm not gonna lie to you. It terrifies me to have a child.
Yeah.
It terrifies me.
Well, the housing market is not helping. But that's a whole nother thing, because the housing market,
there is always a fine line, because people beg you to have kids, and then if you have too many, they're like, why'd you have that many? And it's like,
Caleb and I are in a very different situation. First off, Caleb and I are both, Caleb's home every night. And like, I get like not every parent is home every night, but like Caleb's a very involved dad.
He is, yeah.
Like,
that's so important.
So involved.
Who you choose to have children with is the most important decision I think you make in your life.
Yeah, 100%.
I really do. I think when they say, not only who you're marrying is going to be your husband, but they're also going to be your future children's father.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important. And when I married my husband, that was one of the questions I asked for myself. Is he going to be a good father? And I knew it like 100% yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he's going to be hands-on. It's not going to be mom doing all the work. Like, yeah. And I think that's important for people to go in when they get married, is to really ask themselves that question. Would I trust him alone with my child? Like, is he going to be babysitting, or is he just going to be being a parent?
And I think that we have, so it's interesting because I feel like in just like it's like just in my circle, what I see anecdotally, I see a lot millennial dads way more involved than like our parents were.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like a generational thing.
I also think women are expecting more a little bit, like, not to say like, us as women are like, you're just as capable too. Like, if I'm going to work and working 40 hours a week and you're going to work working 40 hours a week, why is mom doing most of the work? Like, we're both need to be doing the work, because we're in where we're not really, the millennials are less on the traditional side where women stay home as much. They do, but not as much as they did back in the day. And that's why mom did all the work. Do you know what I mean?
Well, even because Gen X worked a ton too. And like, they were working moms. They were latchkey kids.
I was a latchkey kid.
But, well, like, so I'm a stay-at-home mom now, but Caleb is not somebody who comes home and expects me to have like dinner ready or like the laundry done. For crying out loud, Caleb does the laundry.
You're technically a stay-at-home mom, but you're not. You do a lot of other.
I work.
Home.
I work from home. I work.
There's
from
a difference.
Home. Yes.
Like, it's not like you don't. You have a lot of other things going on.
Yeah, but like
a lot of stay-at-home moms do. But you are working. Like, you are bringing income
in. That's fair. And I'm like launching this farm and stuff. But Caleb's a very different dad than like.
Yeah. Well, and it's important. You also you want that for your kids. You want them to feel equally as safe and comfortable with mom as they are dad. You want them to, if mom can't make it to something, dad's going. Like, I think it really is important to have two parents in the home, because it makes it easier.
At least two parents involved.
Yeah.
At least two parents involved. So like, I have friends who are divorced, but they're good co-parents. They're great co-parents.
Yeah. And I've also had to ask myself that too when I got married. Like, if me and Dylan ever got divorced, would I be okay? I mean, no mom would ever be okay having to give 50% of the time with their children, because that's heartbreaking. But could I send my child off 50% of the time with Dylan, even if we Could it make a marriage and still feel comfortable? Yes.
Yeah. Like I go out of town and people are like, who's staying home? And I'm like, Caleb. Like, oh, you're okay with that? I'm
Their
like, yes.
father.
Yeah. So I think that makes a big difference on if you're going to have kids or
Who's
not.
babysitting the kids today? Your husband? No, he's just with them.
Yeah.
He's
keeping
with
like,
them.
yeah.
What do you mean?
It's like,
I know that if I was single right now and not in a good relationship, kids wouldn't even be on a topic on my mind because I just couldn't. For me, the single moms out there that do it are like the super women of life because I just couldn't even fathom not having help.
yeah.
And doing it completely by yourself and not having a husband that helps.
There's like dynamics though. Like if you read like dynamics of like mothers who have single children, they like have dynamics for each kid, like how the kids grow up.
Mm-hmm. Like the oldest is usually the most responsible,
parentified.
Yeah. And I do think the more children, like if you do, and I mean your situation is different, but do you feel like because there was so many children and you were one of the oldest that you helped a lot with the younger kids?
Oh yeah.
And that changed your childhood?
Like I remember changing diapers at 6 and I don't like, maybe it's a fault of mine, but I don't trust First off, it's not Axel's responsibility. And it was I did it then when I was a kid because of our living situation. My mom worked full time. She was in school full time when Savannah and Gabe were born. My mom left my dad for a period of time and like we lived with my grandma. So like there was a lot of helping that I did. But like where Caleb and I are both home and we have family that's always here, it's not Axel's responsibility to have to change a diaper.
No, he's
but
7.
I don't trust him to change a diaper either. Like he one time asked if he could, and I was like, probably not. Just because first off, you want to make sure it gets fully clean. Like if you're changing a diaper, you want to make sure the bum gets fully clean. But no, that's like
he's 7.
But I was changing diapers at Axel's age.
A lot of 7-year-olds don't know how to wipe themselves properly even, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Seriously.
I mean, do you know what I mean? Like
no, really. So like, but I was changing diapers and at 6 and 7. And I was like
crazy.
Making dinner at like 7 and 8, 9. And Logan was the same way. So I think there was a lot of parentification due to survival. It was necessity. And I don't fault my mom for that. I think she was just trying to survive.
Right.
But I look at my kids now.
And you don't want that for them?
I don't want that for them. Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing them a disservice, like just mowing over everything for them. Like Axel has responsibility, but it's not even close to what I had.
He shouldn't have adult response. I think a 7-year-old shouldn't have adult. I think having age appropriate responsibility on their age.
Yes. So
you had adult responsibilities at a child's age. I think 7-year-olds.
He doesn't quite have a 7-year-old responsibility. Like he feeds the chickens and it's real rough.
Yeehaw. Listen.
And his jobs
I wouldn't want to go out there when it's cold feeding no chicken. So that's so to me.
I know 7-year-olds who will unload and load the dishwasher. I'm like, wow, I'm really slacking.
Well, I think it just.
Would you let a 7-year-old unload and load your dishwasher?
How would they reach? If they're on a pie, they gotta have to get a stool.
Okay, I don't know. Like
I was unloading the dishwasher at 7 years old, but that was because that was kind of survival too. Like my parents worked, and like that wasn't like you're gonna get rewarded if you do.
Responsibility.
Yeah, but
so it's like
also at the same time, I don't know if I necessarily would be making my 7-year-old unload and load the dishwasher either. But again, I'm not a mom, so I can't speak for that. But I think age appropriate responsibilities is very important for children, but I don't think they should ever have adult responsibilities.
Yeah, I agree.
Which is like making sure a diaper's changed and making sure your siblings are filled. That's an adult responsibility.
Yeah. And I think, it's, I always tell people before they have kids, like, so like a family members will ask, like, what's like the biggest advice that you could give me? I'm like, you should read parenting books.
Should I?
Oh yeah.
When I get pregnant, you're gonna send me some, right?
Oh yeah, I have like a list of my favorites that I always tell people to read because I didn't read any until Axel was like 2 or 3, and I was like, holy! And that's when I also started to realize like my childhood was not normal.
You don't say.
But I think that like when you read that, it kind of gives you, it's like therapeutic, kind of gives you coping mechanisms for your own like dysfunction. And then you also see like, this is normal behavior. This is not normal behavior.
Right.
I also have a pediatrician that I call all the freaking time.
Yeah, good pediatrician. But do you feel like maybe that's why this pregnancy isn't like for you and you're like, it's a walk in the park because you know what you're doing now.
Yeah.
You know, this is your 4th time around. You were way more prepared. You know what to expect. And so if you can really think, what was the thing that you about having children, like when you had Axel, that just completely no one prepared you for?
All of it.
Really?
First off, we're really selfish when we don't have kids. And like that is like the truth of the matter. I don't think it's necessarily, did it die? We're selfish when we don't have kids. I don't think it's a bad thing. I just don't think you realize like how.
Oh, I know I'm selfish.
But like I don't think you like I don't
Absolutely.
But I think you know you're selfish, but I don't think like I knew I was selfish, but I didn't realize like how much my world was me.
Oh, I know mine is, and I like it that way, and that's why I'm scared to have children.
Okay. So like when like I don't like changing bums. And if I'm like
bums, I love that you call them bums.
But like now it's like not even something that I think about. So you become less selfish. Most people, I'm not blanket statementing that before somebody comes after me.
People are going to come after us in this podcast. I already feel I've said like 10 things that people are going to take the wrong way. And honestly, you have told me you just can't care.
Yeah, you can't care. But like you don't even think about it. Like you're just like, this person, this thing is so important to me. And like, I love it so much. Think about how much you love your dogs. Okay, it's like times
die for my dogs
20 when you have a kid.
Yeah, I don't know if I can handle that kind of love. I feel like that's like overwhelming.
Well, that's why motherhood changes you so much.
Oh my God, I'm gonna be such an anxiety ball.
Yeah, you do. But like, there's this interesting doctor that she's very controversial, but she wrote a book called, I think it's called Hannah's Children, and her name is like Dr. Laura. I don't remember her last name. And she's an economist, and she had 8 children. And I was just listening to her perspective. And she said it's interesting because most people stop having kids at 2 and they're just this anxiety ball because you're still learning how to parent when you have 2 kids. And but by the time 3 comes around, it's like, I remember laying awake at night and like Axel had a speech delay and I was so stressed about it. And Joey's a little bit delayed in her speech, but it's like not a thing. It doesn't worry me because it's like, oh, I know how to do this. So like if this baby has something like that, it's like, oh, I know what I'm doing. Like, oh, I know how to do this. So you become more confident as you go.
Mm-hmm.
And also having friends who have like had kids too, you're like, oh no, that's normal. That's fine. Like, oh, I don't know. You could talk to your pediatrician.
Mm-hmm.
I love the pediatrician. I'll call and be like, this thing happened. And I'll like explain it to them. And they're like, no, that's fine. They're okay.
Well, so yeah, get a good pediatrician.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, I don't think there's ever a right time to have kids. And I don't think you're ever ready. But I'm going to tell you, once you have the kid, it's like you don't even care.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
So that might change. Like when I said 1 and done, that completely could change. I could have 1 and 5. You know what I mean? For right now.
Slow down there. I'm just kidding.
For right now.
You want 1.
Yeah, because I feel like why even set the goal that you're going to have more than 1 and get through the 1 first. And I'm trying to get to the 1 first. But yeah, well, maybe, you know, a year from now, if we're still doing this podcast, I'll be pregnant and I'll be able to see it from a completely different perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it gets easier and it gets like there is like sacrifices, but also like I will have raised kids and so far good ones. And I'll be like 45. And then it's like, and then I get to be independent if I want, or I get to be a very hands-on grandma.
Yeah, and
I'm sure my kids will wait probably longer than I did.
I will be 45 going to preschool.
We would love to hear what you like. Did you wait to have kids or did you have kids right away? And like, what is your opinion on that?
Yeah, and if you have more than 1 kid, which kid do you think was?
Do you think that you gain confidence? I feel like we gain confidence.
Or do you feel like if you have 1, 2 is a lot and 4 is nothing? Or do you feel like you struggled to really have your first and then after you had your first, you're like, oh, I got this.
Yeah.
It's nothing. I know people are going to be like, it's a love that you can't describe. And I completely agree with that. But how do you get over that scared hump to just pull the trigger?
Shoot or shoot, man.
Let me know. Bye.